So inflammation, inflammation, inflammation. Who isn't inflamed these days?
I think everybody has some degree of general inflammation going on throughout their body.
I absolutely agree with you. And listen, when people come to me for psychiatric treatment, they are also most likely and probably inflamed, and that's one of the reasons why they're having severe neuropsychiatric issues. So when we're thinking about creating a rescue medication plan, and if they have inflammatory issues, we're most likely going to target micronutrients that address that from a neurotransmitter perspective as well as from an inflammatory perspective. And one of the final things that we do is layer in an anti-inflammatory diet. Oftentimes I give a low histamine diet or a low salicylate, amine, and glutamate diet. I would love for you to talk a little bit about how that can be contributing to what my patients are going through.
Well, there's several different things you just mentioned. Some are excitatory and some are inflammatory, and some are going to just throw off your neurotransmitters to some degree. When it comes to inflammation and inflammation-based disease in the body, there's many contributing factors when it comes to nutrition. And so, when cells are dying in your body, your immune system goes there and creates inflammation because it's perceived as a pathogen. So it wants to stop the spread of this pathogen. So if you're constantly having your immune system go throughout your body because you have random cells dying throughout your body from overnutrition or malnutrition, or you cut yourself and your immune system goes there to create inflammation, the whole general concept is to keep pathogens like viruses and bacteria from spreading through the body. So if you're constantly having damage in your body, then this inflammation will build up. And what people don't realize is that most of the inflammation is occurring in our guts. So when you eat food and these foods are damaging your intestines from thousands of different ways, you got to think there's trillions of germs in your gut, and it's your immune system's job to keep those out of the body, all the while still let your guts be healthy enough to let nutrition inside the body. So when you eat foods that damage your gut lining and cause different, or maybe it could be just random proteins that cause allergies like gluten and stuff like that, no matter what the cause, there's tons of them. What happens is your immune system goes to the gut and creates inflammation to keep germs from getting in the body. So when there's inflammation in your gut, you're not absorbing your micronutrients. And we know there's about 90 different essential micronutrients that we have to obtain through our diet to live. But there's also all hundreds and thousands of different phytochemicals and polyphenols and bioflavonoids and antioxidants that we find in different foods that can help optimize cell health. And when we minimize inflammation in the gut and we allow our bodies to absorb all the nutrition it can, and we balance out the micronutrients, then everything in the body just kind of sorts itself out, because your body's always, every cell in your body is always breaking itself down and rebuilding itself at the same time. Your body's always eating itself and replacing itself. So if it's eating itself faster than it's replacing itself because you're missing a few nutrients here and there, or you have inflammation or buildup in your body like adipose tissue because you're getting too many different or certain nutrients here and there, then it all adds up. And, with respect to mental health and mood disorders, there's a huge link between the gut and the brain, and there's a big nerve, the vagus nerve, connects the gut to the brain. And we know that the bacteria in our gut, they produce certain neurotransmitters. So if you have a diet that's high in carbohydrates or sugar, for instance, the reason that's so inflammatory in the body is because it fuels the wrong bacteria, the upper GI bacteria, yeast, candidas, things like that. So they're producing dopamine to get you to eat more and more sugar. They kind of trick you into it, but they're also producing cytokines that are unfamiliar to your immune system. That's called a microbiome dysbiosis, and that's probably one of the biggest driving factors for like systemic persistent inflammation triggering an immune system response, just generally throughout the body. Because you can get local inflammation from a cut or something, but you can get general inflammation when cells are dying systematically throughout the body. And when it gets bad enough to where your thymus gland can't sort out which immune cells are good and which ones are bad, then your body can start attacking itself. And this is where you start to see a lot of autoimmune disease and like multiple sclerosis or rheumatoid arthritis and things like that. But at the end of the day, if we starve out the bad bacteria by minimizing carbohydrates and refined foods and foods high in sugar, and we feed the good bacteria that reside in our lower GI tract, our colon, they produce two things: a mucous membrane that keeps your colon healthy enough to absorb nutrients but keep out pathogens at the same time. And they also create something called short chain fatty acid, which is just fermented byproducts from fiber and different types of fats, like saturated fats and monounsaturated fats. So these short chain fatty acids are like food for your immune system. Your white blood cells, it just gives them the perfect environment to thrive and clear out any residual inflammation that may be preventing your body from being able to absorb vitamins and minerals. And one thing that I've also found working with nutrition in respect to mood disorders and mental health is that, the liver is always filtering your blood to try to remove toxins, but nutrients become toxins at a certain dose. So the liver expels a lot of water-soluble vitamins, B vitamins, magnesium, and calcium, and a whole group, selenium, zinc, a lot of water-soluble nutrition, and it expels it through the biliary duct into the duodenum and the intestines. And assuming that your gut is healthy, there's a feedback cycle where you can reabsorb these nutrients that are constantly lost through the liver. And all of these nutrients are always present when there's mood disorders and associated with mood disorders, like the B vitamins and magnesium and selenium and zinc. And I've noticed, a very heavy correlation between gut inflammation. And I think that's one of the other contributing factors. So when it comes to nutrition, we have to take care of the gut. We have to minimize inflammation in every way, shape, and form. We have to balance out the nutrients. And a lot of times that requires intravenous IVs. Because the gut, a lot of people's guts have so much residual inflammation, they can't absorb the vitamins and the minerals.
Absolutely. So in summary, what you're saying is, in order for us to have good mental health, we need a strong, stable gut lining that protects us, but also is permeable enough to absorb the micronutrients, because those micronutrients like magnesium, zinc, copper, selenium, and the B vitamins in particular are vital for neurotransmitter synthesis.
Yes.
A couple of the other things that I heard you mention was very vital was the vagus nerve. One of the interesting things about the vagus nerve is for every one fiber of up to down signaling that's occurring from the brain to the gut system in the vagus nerve, there's 9 fibers of signaling going from the GI tract up to the brain.
Yes.
So if you're having anxiety and it's affecting your GI system, it's more that you have a GI system issue and then secondary anxiety, not a primary anxiety that's affecting your GI system.
Yes.
Which is very phenomenal. The other thing that you mentioned that I want to highlight that a lot of people don't really understand is that your gut is your skin, meaning your oropharynx, meaning it's although it's inside your body, it's really outside your body. It's really outside your body. It's still the exterior.
Yes.
It's continuous with your skin of your mouth, going down your esophagus to your stomach, duodenum, small, large intestine, all the way to your anus. It's outside of your body. And when people start to understand that, then they'll start valuing the importance of skin integrity, because the integrity of this skin is important, but the integrity of the skin inside is even more important.
Yes. And that epithelial tissue, it's only a few cells thin. And if you spread, I think if the surface area, if you were to spread out the whole colon, is like 2 tennis ball courts of like 1 to 2 cells thick. And you have enough toxic cytokines and bacterial waste in your gut to kill hundreds and hundreds of people.
Oh, wow.
The only thing keeping you from instant death and septic shock is a few cells.
A few cells.
Yes.
Wow.
And imagine, you eat the wrong thing, you eat some gluten, and then it destroys those cells, and they have to regenerate that fast, and your immune system has to keep the bacteria out while it's rebuilding. It's a hefty job.
It's a hefty job, and it's miraculously and easily done if we allow ourselves to regenerate that tissue and allow it to function properly.
That's why fasting is so important.
Fasting.
Avoid seed oils. The seed oils, I think, are driving most of the inflammation in our gut lining.
You think that's related to the oxalate content of the seed oils?
Oxidative stress.
Or the oxidative stress?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. They're already oxidized.
Okay.
And then especially in trans fats are the same. But
Okay.
And then refined carbohydrates. You don't want to eat that. It just throws the whole dysbios, the microbiome. You're just growing the wrong ones and starving the good ones.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something very interesting. So where you said you're feeding those bacteria, or in the case of Candida, it's more of a fungus, you're feeding it and it's creating neurotransmitters or it's affecting neurotransmitter synthesis. So one of the things that is very interesting is when you have an overgrowth of Clostridial bacteria, you preferentially reduce the conversion of dopamine to norepinephrine. You have elevated levels of dopamine, and so yes, when you feed it, you have this dopamine spike, but then dopamine ends up becoming neurotoxic, and then you get agitated.
How does that present in psychiatric symptoms?
Severe mood dysregulation, irritability, aggression, and then severe neurodevelopmental delay as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I love
and you
it.
can change all of that.
I love
just by
neurotransmitters.
not eating
Yeah.
and then adding the right foods back into the diet.
Yes, fasting. And your body, and when you fast, I mean, most of these neurotransmitters are made of proteins, and they are proteins, and so
They're amino acids. Yeah.
So when you fast, your body will break down proteins that are causing inflammation and rearrange them and use them to recycle and make things that your body needs.
Wow,
Yes, like neurotransmitters.
that's amazing.
I've never fasted and been unhappy afterwards. It's been the best.
Maybe that's why we're so happy. I'm fasting. You're fasting.
I'm fasted right now.
I'm fasting right now too. Okay.
Well, hey, it was great talking.
It was great talking
That was a
to you
good
too as well.
conversation.
Absolutely.